Lara was a little girl of about 8 or 10 years old. One day, something very serious happened. She picked up the phone and called the emergency number, with a voice full of courage, but also with a touch of desperation. She said that she was trapped in a house. She didn't know how to get out. She was hungry, and there was no one to help her. The most curious thing was how she described the place. There was a red door, a garden full of yellow flowers, and a dog that seemed to be sleeping soundly, without giving any sign of life. On the other end of the line, Police Officer Douglas listened very carefully. He realized that this was no ordinary call. It was as if fate was placing this challenge in his path. Although he didn't have many clear clues, he knew he couldn't ignore it. Douglas decided to act quickly and began a search that he never imagined would change his life forever. As he drove, he tried to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Who was Lara? Where was this house with the red door and yellow flowers? And what had happened to the dog? He thought, I need to find this girl. She trusted me, and I'm going to do everything I can to help her. The search wasn't easy. Douglas walked through streets and neighborhoods, asked people, looked at doors and gardens. Every detail Lara told him seemed more important than he imagined. It was as if each clue was an essential piece of a bigger story. He didn't know what he would find in the end, but something inside him told him that finding Lara wasn't just a matter of professional duty. It was a personal mission, an opportunity to make a difference in someone's life. And do you know what's amazing about all this? Lara, even at such a young age, teaches us a great lesson. Even when everything seems difficult and you feel alone, never give up asking for help. And Douglas reminds us that sometimes answering a call is more than a job. It's an act of courage and compassion that can change two people's lives at the same time. So here's his advice. Be like Lara and have the courage to ask for help when you need it. And if you're like Douglas, always be willing to listen and help, because you never know how your actions can change the world around you. Just imagine a little girl named Lara with a soft but urgent voice picks up the phone and calls the police. I'm trapped in a house. I don't know where I am, and my mother, she won't wake up. Those words, full of despair, made the police officer on the other end of the line stop everything he was doing and pay attention. Lara, even so scared, managed to describe some details that could help. The door here is red. In the garden there are yellow flowers, and there's a dog, but it doesn't move, as if it were sleeping. And before they could ask more, the call was disconnected. Now imagine the scene at the police station. Police officers looking at each other, knowing that every second was precious. They managed to trace the location of the call, but only to an approximate area. There was no exact address, just a region full of streets and houses that could fit the description. And that's where the most incredible part of this story comes in. Despite the challenge, no one gave up. They knew that Lara needed help, and that at that moment, they were her only hope. The clues were few, but valuable. Now think about it. Sometimes in life, we feel lost, like Lara. It seems like we are locked in a place with no way out, not knowing what to do. And that is where the importance of asking for help comes in. Even though she was afraid, Lara found the strength to do it. And on the other hand, those police officers show us that even when the task seems difficult or even impossible, it is worth trying. Here is the advice. Never be afraid to ask for help when you need it. And if you are in a position to help, do everything you can. Small acts of courage and kindness can make a huge difference in someone's life, and who knows, change yours too. Now just imagine, Police Officer Douglas, a man dedicated to his work, receives a call that affects him in a special way. A little girl, Lara, was in trouble, trapped in a house, and all he had were vague clues: a red door, yellow flowers, and a dog. Would that be enough? For Douglas, it was more than enough. He knew that every second counted, and that he couldn't give up until he found her. He started going door to door, talking to the locals. Have you seen anything? Do you know any house with a red door? He kept asking, and the answers were almost always negative. But Douglas didn't give up. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. But he knew that Lara's life was at stake. After hours of searching, something unexpected happened. A mysterious man with a suspicious look approached and gave a tip that seemed promising, but also dangerous. There's a place, but it's complicated. Few people go there, only those who don't want to be found. Dangerous people usually go there. The man's words sounded like a warning, but Douglas knew he had to go. When he got to the place, the scene was frightening. The house was isolated, and the red door was there, exactly as Lara had described. In front of the house, a dog was lying down, but it wasn't moving. Douglas realized that the animal was dead. That increased the urgency in his chest. He tried to open the door, but it was locked. Without hesitation, he broke it down with all his strength. When he entered, the scene was heartbreaking. Lara was there, alive, but extremely weak. Her little face was pale, her eyes tired, but she was still breathing. However, the tragedy did not end there. Her mother, who Lara had said wouldn't wake up, was there too, but already lifeless, in a state of decomposition that Douglas would never forget. This story teaches us so much about courage and determination. Douglas faced the unknown, took a risk and saved a life. And Lara, even so young, had the courage to ask for help and believe that someone would come. Here's some advice. Life sometimes puts us in difficult situations, but the strength to face them comes from the courage to ask for help and the determination of those who are willing to make a difference. Never underestimate the power of an act of kindness or a courageous decision. They can change not only a life, but the world around you. Now, let me tell you a story that will warm your heart. After everything that had happened, Officer Douglas did not stop until he had taken Lara to a safe place. He carried her in his arms all the way to the hospital, making sure she received all the care she needed. Lara, so small and fragile, began to recover, slowly, like a flower that needs sunlight after a storm. But then another problem arose. Lara had no one, no registered relatives, no one who could take care of her. And that was when Douglas and his wife, Rosa, made a decision that would change everyone's lives. They looked at Lara and knew they could not leave her alone. So they opened the doors of their own home and welcomed her, at least until they found a permanent solution. At first, Lara was shy, scared. After all, everything she knew had been taken from her so abruptly. But over time, she began to feel safe. Douglas, with his patience and affection, and Rosa, with her sweetness and infectious laughter, made Lara feel that maybe, just maybe, she could find a new beginning there. On one of those quiet nights, while Rosa was combing Lara's hair before bed, the girl finally told her what had happened. My mother, she told me to hide in the closet that day. She told me to stay quiet no matter what happened. I stayed there, but then she didn't come back. She didn't answer anymore. These words broke Rosa and Douglas' hearts, but they also showed Lara's incredible strength. Even at such a young age, she had obeyed, faced her fear, and most importantly, survived. And do you know what the lesson of all this is? Life can sometimes be hard, so hard that it seems like we can't handle it. But there is always hope. There is always someone willing to lend a hand. Lara found that in Douglas and Rosa, but more than that, she found a new chance at happiness. Now just imagine, Lara was finally starting to feel safer in her new home with Douglas and Rosa. But suddenly, something strange happened. She started to feel strong pains in her stomach. It was so intense that Douglas and Rosa took her straight to the hospital. There, no one knew what it could be, until the test revealed something unbelievable. Stones in the girl's intestine. But they weren't ordinary stones. They were diamonds. It was a shock for everyone. How could such a little girl end up with something like that inside her? Lara, in her shy way, told the truth that she had kept hidden until then. My mother asked me to swallow the stones. She said, her eyes full of tears. She said it was to hide it from a very bad man. And so, what seemed to be just a survival story turned into a police mystery full of twists and turns. The diamonds were not just any old thing. They were precious stones from a jewelry store that had been robbed a short time before. The investigation revealed that Lara's stepfather, along with her mother, were involved in the crime. They tried to escape with the diamonds, but the real culprit, a dangerous man, found them. He was the one who took their lives, leaving Lara as the only survivor of this tragedy. Can you imagine the weight that Lara carried? Even at such a young age, she had already experienced more dangers than many people face in a lifetime. But do you know what's most incredible? Lara didn't let these difficulties dim her light. With the support of Douglas, Rosa, and the doctors, she recovered one day at a time. And most importantly, Lara teaches us that even when the world seems to be falling apart, there is always a way to move forward. She faced everything with a courage that many adults might not have, and with the love and care of the people around her, she began to build a new life. Imagine that after everything Lara had been through, she was finally beginning to feel some peace. Douglas and Rosa did everything they could to take care of her, filling her days with affection, games, and laughter. But not everything was peaceful. Something dark still hung in the air, as if Lara's story had not yet been completely resolved. One night, while the house was silent and everyone was asleep, something scary happened. Douglas heard a strange noise coming from outside. It was as if someone was trying to force the door open. With his heart racing, he grabbed his flashlight and went to check. Rosa stayed by Lara's side, protecting her. Douglas didn't find anyone, but the signs of a break-in were there. Who could it be? And what did they want? The days passed, but the fear still haunted her. Lara, even trying to be strong, became quieter, looking around as if expecting something bad to happen. It was then that, as she walked with Rosa to the bakery, a mysterious man appeared. He stared at Lara as if he knew her and tried to approach her. Before he could do anything, Douglas, who had been watching from a distance, quickly arrived and arrested the man. "Who are you? What do you want with her?" Douglas asked firmly. The man, after resisting a bit, revealed something shocking. He was Lara's biological father. But that wasn't all. He also confessed to being the leader of the diamond robbery that started this whole tragedy. In a low, cold voice, he told them what had happened on that fateful day. During a dispute over the diamonds with Lara's stepfather and mother, he decided to finish them off. He used poison to ensure that he would get everything. And in the midst of the chaos, Lara was left alone to face the horror of losing her family. This revelation left Douglas and Rosa in shock, but it also reinforced a powerful truth. Lara was a survivor. Despite everything she had been through, betrayal, loss, danger, she remained strong, finding the strength to move forward. Now imagine this. After everything that had happened, Lara finally began to feel that she was in a safe place. Douglas and Rosa, who had taken care of her as if she were their own daughter, knew they needed to do something more. They didn't want Lara to live in fear of being taken away from her new family. So they made a very important decision: to file an adoption process so that Lara would officially be part of their family. Meanwhile, the investigation into Lara's biological father and his accomplices was in full swing. The police worked hard, following every lead, every detail of what had happened. And after weeks of effort, the news that everyone had been waiting for finally came. Lara's biological father and his accomplices had been arrested. They could no longer harm anyone, much less Lara. But the most exciting part of this story was yet to come. One day, Douglas and Rosa called Lara for a special conversation. They were smiling, but it was the kind of smile that seemed to hide something incredible. Lara, curious, asked, "What happened?" In a voice full of emotion, Rosa said, "Lara, we have very special news for you. As of today, you are officially part of our family. We have gained custody of you." Lara looked at them for a moment, as if trying to understand what that meant, and then, her eyes shining, she smiled so big that it seemed to light up the whole room. "Does that mean I'm your daughter now?" she asked, her voice trembling. Douglas bent down to her level, looked her straight in the eyes, and replied, "You always were, Lara. We just made it official." That moment marked the beginning of a new life for Lara. It wasn't just about having a new last name or a new house. It was about having a real home, with people who loved her and would do anything to protect her. You know those stories that start out full of challenges, but end with a heartwarming ending? That's exactly what happened to Lara, Douglas, and Rosa. After everything they had been through together, the fears, the struggles, the twists and turns, they were finally able to celebrate something very special. They were now officially a family. The road to this point wasn't easy. Lara was carrying traumas that seemed impossible to overcome. She lost her mother, faced dangers, and discovered hard truths about her past. But do you know what's amazing? With the love and care of Douglas and Rosa, each day was a small victory. Lara grew stronger, learning that even after difficult times, it is possible to start over. Douglas, with his determination, showed Lara that he would always be by her side, facing anything to protect her. And Rosa, with her sweet way, taught her that love is a powerful medicine, capable of healing even the deepest wounds. Now, they were not just people living under the same roof. They were a real family, the kind that helps each other, has fun, and faces anything together. At that moment, Lara understood something that she may never have felt before. She had a home. It was not just the house. It was a place where she felt safe, loved, and accepted exactly as she was. And what does this story teach us? That love is stronger than any difficulty. That even when the world seems to be falling apart, there is always a chance to rebuild. And above all, that the right people can completely transform your life. So here's my advice. Never underestimate the power of love and kindness. They can change everything. And remember, just like Douglas and Rosa showed Lara, you too can be a safe haven for someone. Because at the end of the day, what really matters is the love we share and the families we build, whether they are by blood or by heart.